Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Purple Hearts. Purple Hearts is an American romantic drama based on the novel of the same name, and tells the story of Cassie Salazar, a server and aspiring musician who struggles to make ends meet while trying to stay on top of her diabetes. One night while working at the bar, she encounters a group of Marines, one of whom introduces himself as Luke. After learning of the medical and financial benefits that come with being a military spouse, Cassie proposes that she and Luke get married, to which Luke agrees on account of his own financial woes. This results in the two trying to maintain their fraudulent image as a happily married couple, with the possibility of real love blossoming in the process. This is another one of those movies that seems to be split when it comes to opinion, with critics hating it and general audiences enjoying it. I personally found myself in the middle of the road with this one, as it's quite predictable and cliche in presentation, but the characters are memorable enough to help keep this movie afloat. I was surprised with how much I ended up enjoying Sofia Carson's performance as Cassie. Though it took a while to get used to her sassy personality, I eventually did come to sympathize with her circumstances, as she has to deal with making rent and trying to pay for medication just to stay alive, which is something no one should ever have to go through. I also like that she has a goal to pursue outside of the romance. Her dedication to her craft and music is evident in multiple ways, ranging from teaching piano lessons to fronting her own band. There's a clear sense of progression with how she goes about following her passion, which kept me invested to see where her character would go with it. The other main character, Luke, played by Nicholas Galitzine, was a bit more bland by comparison, but still decent overall. His character is disciplined in the way one would expect from a Marine, yet he has a dark side that contrasts this clean image, which made him more intriguing as a result. His broken relationship with his family also makes it a bit easier to empathize with him, albeit not nearly as much as with Cassie, since he has more control of his circumstances than she does with hers. The angle revolving around his addiction does become an issue at times, though this has more to do with the relationship as it builds. This leads me to talk about the romance that develops between the two, and truth be told, I wasn't sold on the premise when I first heard about it and when I started watching, but after a while it did grow on me and became more engaging, although it still ended up being ordinary. The chemistry between them isn't immediately obvious at first, which on one hand is kind of the point, as the two are getting married simply for the financial benefits, so it's natural that there'd be so much animosity between them, especially when it comes to their political beliefs. There's a lot of thematic content behind the reasoning of their fake marriage, which examines the abysmal state of healthcare in the United States in Cassie's case, as well as the stigma of addiction in Luke's case. Their differing reasons for wanting to enter the marriage are explained well, and it's interesting to see the lengths they go to fulfill their ends of the bargain, which occasionally results in good drama. However, the movie tends to get pretty ham-fisted when it comes to the topics they argue about. Things like illegal immigration, the sanctity of marriage, and the purpose of militaries are examined, but only at surface level. And because both characters share only the most extreme points of view with little in the way of gray area, the drama in this regard feels manufactured and pointless. A lot of this arguing happens at the beginning of the movie, which I found weird considering if there was ever a time to prop up a loving image in front of others, it would be when the two are fresh newlyweds, yet no one ever seems to question their legitimacy despite plenty of opportunities to do so, so the relationship was very hard to take seriously at first. As I said earlier though, the two did grow on me over time. The act where Luke is deployed in Iraq was my favorite part, which might sound odd since that's when the two were separated from each other, but for the purposes of their relationship, the distance is ironically what brings them together. This part is where the movie puts the most effort into their romance. They exchange fake love letters and have video calls, which finally allow the two to get to know each other on a deeper level. And as they do, there's a sort of lingering tension behind their fraud, which kept me guessing if they truly meant what they were saying or not. On top of this being a great way of getting me attached to the characters, there's a small number of more emotional scenes where the two cool off and act like an actual couple, especially when Luke returns from Iraq. Even though these scenes didn't happen often, they were extremely moving and a lot better than the numerous ones of them arguing or being snarky. There's an interesting juxtaposition with how Cassie's life starts to improve following the marriage and how Luke starts to become more complicated. For Cassie, it's done pretty well, but for Luke, there's aspects relating to his dark past that I felt could have been improved upon. The whole angle surrounding his former drug dealer Jono, who Luke owes money to, takes a long time to get going and is pretty lame when it does. I didn't understand why Luke told Jono about his fake marriage, constantly remained afraid of him, and bended to his every demand when he could have just consulted with someone in his chain of command about how to handle him right from the get-go. The bonding Luke has with his family helps offset this a little bit, though it's still mundane in approach. Luke has a bad relationship with his father, a former Marine himself who used to be a cop, which hints at some sort of blow-up and detective work on the marriage when they eventually reconnect, but the movie never really takes advantage of this potential. As far as the rest of the movie's portrayal of the Marines as a whole is concerned, all of the uniforms appear to be authentic based on what I've seen others say about it anyway, and the general sense of honor and weight of the duties they perform is present as well. But there are still some issues. The hoorah frat house culture among the Marines is an annoying trope that's here in full force, and the way they shove the fact that they're serving in people's faces is pretty cringeworthy, especially when one of them starts arguing with Cassie, which adds on top of the already annoying arguments that she has with Luke. If it hadn't been for the character Frankie, who's played by Chosen Jacobs, the Marines in this movie would have been completely unremarkable. The relationship that exists between him and Cassie is adorable, and he even has his own subplot, which I found thoroughly compelling, as short as it was. The one thing that makes the movie stand out among other military romance stories is the musical twist that's put into it. It features a mix of original songs and cover versions that resonate with the emotional context of a given scene, and Sophia Carson's vocal performance, particularly with the song Come Back Home, is always a pleasure to listen to. What I like most about the music is that it doesn't completely overtake the main story. I'm not a fan of when movies like these have an uneven balance between story and music, and this one does a good job at staying relatively grounded with its story while allowing the music to shine during appropriate moments. In the end though, the story plays out pretty much exactly as one might expect. The characters don't get along, but then they gradually do, have a falling out when things inevitably blow up in their faces, which somehow doesn't affect Cassie that much, and reunite to confess their love for each other. Most of what happens in the story can be seen coming, which is kind of disappointing, but this isn't a total deal breaker. Overall, Purple Hearts is another typical romantic drama that suffers from predictability, but is helped by the performances of its main characters and its musical direction. If you enjoy formulaic romance stories and you want to see one that's told with a unique musical twist behind it, you might want to check this one out. It's not exactly the most inspiring romance I've seen, but it's definitely not as bad as critics make it out to be. It's an average comfort viewing movie that most romance fans will find themselves at home with, and for all its faults, there's nothing wrong with a nice heartwarming experience. What did you think about this movie? Did you like the chemistry between Cassie and Luke, or were you annoyed by how predictable it was? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Purple Hearts. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the American black comedy, Not Okay. Bye bye!